Andrew's an old friend, and he's also part of our extended fellowship family. I've known him for 15 years at least, and he is no stranger to the fellowship. And by the way, Susan, thank you. Felt such energy from that. So, Andrew comes to us from Richmond this morning, a city he says that he's fallen in love with. He had a career in advertising, publishing, and marketing management. He retired from a world of chronic high stress, and he now works as a professional coach, serving the educational, business, and ecumenical fields. 8 years ago, after an accident from falling from a roof, he wound up in the Shenandoah Valley in a community of Seventh-day Adventist friends to recover. Now, this led him on an unlikely detour in his life, whereby he found himself managing an assisted living facility for 40 mentally challenged adults for 3 years, and I'm chuckling because he left that job wide open for me. It was there that his true spiritual awakening began to unfold, and while there, he wrote a vision plan for the Warrior Haven Demonstration Alliance, an organized structure for Warrior Haven wellness and therapeutic community for veterans suffering from PTSD and traumatic brain injury. This evolved from his own experience as a PTSD survivor and a vision to assist others to get their lives back. Presently living in Richmond, he manages Personal Dynamic Institute, a professional development and training organization offering a variety of workshops and seminars, along with personal and group coaching in the fields of retirement, communication, and wellness. He serves as co-facilitator for the North Richmond Community Food Pantry. He's an ordained minister and practitioner with the International Metaphysical Ministry and is a student of science of mind. He's committed to sharing the gifts of spirit that have been showered upon him in abundance along his journey with others to whom he is drawn to. He has one son and a grandson living in Roanoke. I think that Andrew's greatest gift, which was illustrated for us in today's inspirational reading, which Jonelle mentioned, which I mentioned when I lit my candle, and thanked you all for giving me your love and holding me in life. Andrew's greatest gift came to him by way of being a recipient of the same. Andrew has learned to be a true friend. Let's give him a warm fellowship welcome.
Celebration. Wow. I feel a little bit verklempt. Jonelle's so nice to hear about Charlie. It just makes my day. You all are so beautiful. Margaret, you're especially beautiful. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
I was a little bit daunted knowing that I was coming to present to a group of spiritually mature people. Mm-hmm. And I was in the bathroom changing my clothes this morning, and there's a little sign beside the commode that says, make sure the commode is flushed properly, and no feminine products. And I thought, well, if we have to be reminded of that, then maybe we could be reminded of other things as well. And so maybe some of the things I share with you today may be preaching to the choir, but nonetheless. I'm so honored and humbled to be here before you this morning. Too many years ago, I was at a spiritual retreat in Myrtle Beach, and heard about this character who was very popular at the time, Ram Dass. Baba Ram Dass was speaking at this place called the Aquarian Yoga Ashram in Virginia Beach. And of course his book, Be Here Now, was all the rage. And I made my way up Highway 17 to Virginia Beach and listened to Ram Dass in this building. He was about right here. And I was sitting over there. And I was blessed to have tea with him afterwards and to be in his presence. And it was a beautiful evening. And this experience of being in his presence, one of my fondest memories. So then so many years later, I come to the fellowship and I knew that I'd been here before. Not much has changed structurally. And it occurred to me that I was familiar with this building. And so it was not long after that that Paul Solomon moved his ministry back to Virginia Beach from Atlanta. And then shortly after that moved into the building. And I know that Susan Thomas was one of the first organizers along. Feeling really reclaimed. Along with Tom Johnson, who we all missed. And then, of course, Bruce and Jerry and Mary Elizabeth and George and others came on board to support Paul's efforts. And here, after all these years, here we are. We're at the Joyful Church with a big heart. Yes. You have done and are doing such a magnificent job of keeping this ministry not just going, but very much alive, vibrant and well, with the continuing work of Sharon, Miles, and Heidi and others. So exciting to hear about their work. But our work is far from done. And that's what I'd like to speak to this morning. I was going to say some things about Mary. She got introduced before I did that. Well, I will say that I'm honored to have Mary as my friend and have her here with us today. I can report my own experience with her work, that the first session I had with her was my eyesight improved, my hearing improved, and then after a couple more sessions I found myself sleeping in a deeper state, and I look forward to more sessions. So I want to thank you, Jonelle, for your kind words, and Jeanette, and to thank you, Susan, for that beautiful song, Imagine. Where are you at? Where's Susan? She's out of the building. Such a beautiful song. By way of some brief background, I'm a farm boy. Grew up on a dairy farm in South Carolina, and lived a mile from the church that we went to. Walked to church and back every day, every Sunday, and had perfect attendance pins on my jacket. One of my clearest memories, however, is when it was wintertime, the Sunday school superintendent would come and build a fire in a coal stove, huge coal stove, sitting over in the corner, and these pipes coming out of the coal stove, going up through the ceiling. So by the time service started, the stove and the stovepipes would be red hot, glowing red hot. You ever seen a coal stove, wood stove, red hot? Dale, I know you have. You're a farm boy too. You know what that's like. So us boys would sit up close to the stove. We could like looking right at the stove. And the preacher would be up in the pulpit, and he would get to preaching, and the stove would be so hot, and he'd take his jacket off, start patting himself, and talking about eternal fire and damnation. Eternal fire and damnation. We're looking at this red hot stove. Our eyes really big. how could that be? And so, after high school, my father decided the military would be a good place for me to be. And I found myself at Fort Jackson in basic training, and a short time later I was in Southeast Asia, amongst a culture that I was farm boy from South Carolina not very familiar with. And so on Saturday mornings I would go to the Buddhist temples, and I found it very comforting. I liked it. It was completely different from what I had learned. And so it was very peaceful. And I look forward to going every Saturday morning. So I know that I was a spiritual seeker early on, even going back to my childhood. But I was stubborn, very stubborn. In South Carolina, they used the word hard-headed. Hard-headed. I had to do things my way. I had to be in control. The story about the night watchman on the boat, on the ship, sees a light off in the horizon and getting pretty close. So he calls the captain up on the what's it called? Bridge, up on the bridge. And so the captain sends a signal out, and he says, "Change your course 10 degrees to the south." And a message comes back, and it says, "Change your course 10 degrees to the north." Well, the captain wasn't used to having his word challenged. So he sends another message back, and he says, "I'm a captain. Change your course 10 degrees to the south." And the message comes back and says, "I'm a seaman first class. Change your course 10 degrees to the north." Well, now the captain's getting really huffy. Sends a message back and he says, "I'm a battleship. Change your course 10 degrees to the south." And the message came back, "I'm a lighthouse on a rock." I think we can all relate to that. So there's an old legend of the Middle Ages that's very instructive, at least for me. It seems there was a citizen who was arrested by one of the barons for not paying his debts. And he was taken and shut up in a dungeon in the castle. He was taken down these stairs, deep, deep, deep down, by a ferocious-looking jailer with a key about a foot long. And the door of the cell was open. He was thrown in to the dark hole, and the door was slammed shut with a bang. And there he was. He laid in this dungeon for 20 years. Each day the jailer would come along and open the door and give him a loaf of bread and water, and the door closed again. So after about 20 years, the prisoner decided that he couldn't stand it any longer. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. He wanted to die, but he didn't want to commit suicide. So he decided the next day, when the jailer came, he would attack him. The jailer would then kill him in self-defense, and thus his misery would be at an end. He thought he would examine the door carefully the night before. And so going over the door, checking out the door, he noticed the handle, and he caught the handle, and he turned it. And to his amazement, the door opened. And upon looking further, he found that there was no lock on the door at all. And never had been. And for all those 20 years, he had not been locked up at all, except in his belief. At any time during that period, he could have opened the door, if only he had known it. If only he had known it. He thought he was locked up, but he was not. So he groped along the corridor and he felt his way upstairs. At the top of the stairs, there were two guards chatting with each other. They paid no attention to him. They made no attempt to stop him. He crossed the yard without attracting attention. There was an armed guard at the drawbridge, paid no attention to him, and he walked out a free man. He could have done this any time throughout the 20 years if he had known. He was a captive, not of stone and iron, but of false belief, born of fear. He was not locked in, only he thought and believed that he was. Of course, this is only a legend, but it is an extremely instructive one. We have all lived or are living in some kind of prison. You and I. Wouldn't you agree? Some of us in one kind of another. Some in a prison of lack. Some in a prison of remorse and resentment. Some in a prison of sickness. But always the prison is in our thoughts, our fear-based thoughts, and not in the true nature of things. For much of my life, the little self of me believed my fears were real. I was controlled by them, I was imprisoned by them, I was enslaved by them, but I was protecting them. I was in charge. I'm a battleship. I'm the captain. But instead of giving our fears power, all we need to do is to give ourselves power by loving ourselves. When we are loving ourselves, we heal. We thrive fully. We flourish. We live completely. There is no truth in our seeming troubles. There is no reality in lack. There is no power in time or conditions to make us feel old and tired and sick. Metaphysics comes to us and says, you are not chained down in any dungeon. In the name of universal spirit, turn the handle, walk out, and be free. And be mindful that the door opens inward. Very important. The harder you push against the door, the harder it is to open, or it doesn't open. And that's what we do, isn't it? You press against it, you close it on yourself. That's what we do. That's why in movie theaters and shopping centers and so forth, the doors always open out to avoid panic. So when we relax mentally, the action of spirit will open the door for us. And we walk out free. My friends, fear needs no assistance. It is that powerful. But it is only powerful and controlling in the human condition where it rules the masses and where it needs no permission. When we put on our spiritual identity, we see with our spiritual eyes and we hear with our spiritual ears, we know, you and I, that as powerful as it is pure illusion. We know that, don't we? When just the opposite is our experience, it is because we are buying the lies and deception of fear. And fear is not only the individual illusion, It is the illusion that stops those imprisoned in the human condition from glowing and experiencing in total radiance of complete acceptance and love for ourselves and all creation. Someone said that fear meant false evidence appearing real. I read in A Course in Miracles that nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists, but only in our thoughts and beliefs. So as I began awakening, I made a choice to embrace each moment as much as I could, instead of hiding behind lies, my fears, my small self, my ego, that tried to convince me of its truth. As I rose from the ashes of my prior existence, I knew I was recreating a new me. A me that had been waiting for a very, very long time to fly into the freedom of living. I do not share this with you out of arrogance, but from a place of peace. For I know you too can be your own phoenix risings as you walk away from those illusions of fears that blocked your true shining self from emerging. This is incredible news. But the great news is that we collectively have the opportunity to rise together in the shift of a new world that is emerging. For this fact, I'm ecstatic for you, for myself, and for future generations to come. From my own experience, I practice seeing love everywhere. This is the vibrational frequency that I practice staying attuned to. Love is a verb. It is not a thing. It is a movement in consciousness. It is the essence of our infinite nature. It gives movement and animates all of creation. And it is available to us in boundless measure. The master teacher Meher Baba put it this way. Love has to spring spontaneously from within. It is not amenable to any form of inner or outer force. Love and coercion can never go together. But while love cannot be forced upon anyone, it can be awakened through love itself. Those who do not have it catch it from those who do. Those who receive love from others cannot be its recipients without giving a response that, in itself, is the nature of love. True love is unconquerable and irresistible. It goes on gathering power and spreading itself until eventually it transforms everyone it touches. Humanity will attain a new mode of being and life through the free and unhampered interplay of pure love from heart to heart. We are spiritual beings going through the human experience. As we awaken to this divine reality, we begin to transcend the human condition of suffering, pain, worry, and all their entities. This is not to say that we abandon the human experience itself, going off and living in a cave somewhere. Quite the contrary. It becomes paradoxical. We learn to live in this world, but not of this world. We celebrate all that we can attract to our senses. The beauty, joy, excitement for life. This thing we call life is far more sacred and special than any of us can imagine. Our task or should I say our privilege, is to become fully aware, awakened of it, and to participate as deeply and as fully as we are capable of allowing Spirit to express through us. My spiritual practice is very simple. It consists of 5 simple actions. 1, meditation, to prepare and align my body with my day. 2, to practice gratitude as I go through my day. To be present, to being grateful for everything. 3, to love others unconditionally, without judgment. 4, to practice mindfulness around my body's need for nutrition and exercise. And offering abundant friendship to others. Leslie Weatherhead, very acclaimed English minister, tells the story of 2 friends that got to be friends during World War I. One was injured and couldn't get back to the trenches. And his friend went out to get him against his officer's orders. The friend returned mortally wounded. And the friend he had gone to retrieve, he carried on his back and was already dead. The officer said, "It was not worth it." And the dying man replied, "It was worth it, sir. You see, when I got to him, Jim said, 'I knew you would come.' It was worth it." In the book, The City of God, completed in 427 AD, Augustine said that friendship was higher than any other form of human love. And then he went on to talk about a third force in friendship, that in friendship, something takes place, a higher something of great power and beauty, that gives wisdom and dignity to the individuals when they are truly in friendship. And I'd like to share now Paul Solomon's take on gratitude. There is a promise in the Bible that is written, "Draw nigh unto God, and he will draw nigh unto you." James 4:8. This verse speaks of 2 forces coming together, impelled by something. What is the impelling force that draws the 2 together? The simple truth is gratitude, gratefulness. If you can be grateful in all things, for all things, at all times, constantly grateful to your source for everything in your life, no matter what is happening, no matter what it looks like in the moment, no matter what catastrophe seems to be occurring at the moment. If you can be grateful for all things, and all things at all times, you will draw nigh unto him, and he will draw nigh unto you, until you are melded together as one. Is that powerful or what? And he goes on to say, this may mean discovering a God that is different from the one you have known thus far. If the God you have been relating to is not supportive of you, your past, your future, your accomplishments, your desires, the other people in your life, then you should probably fire that one. Because the true God within you is supportive of all that you are. Each human being is an absolute perfect creation, including his or her weaknesses, congenital defects, illnesses, weaknesses, Disadvantages, disabilities, and challenges only exist to point out opportunities to deal with particular issues and lessons for growth as determined by the soul. So they are a part of the perfection of a life experience. You have the right to have a good relationship with that higher part of yourself, to enjoy your God within, to have fun in that relationship, free of fear and guilt. In such a relationship, you ask questions and you listen. You never feel condemned. You always feel loved and forgiven, cherished. And that is the way it ought to be. If there are things that you resent or dislike about yourself or your life situation, dismiss them. Change your relationship with them until you can be grateful in all things, for all things, at all times. If you can experience such a level of appreciation for everything in life, every moment of your life, living with an attitude of gratitude, then you link with your source will cause you to live life effectively with prosperity in every area of your life. It will cause you to be supportive to yourself and to everyone around you at all times. And it will cause you to enjoy life beyond anything you have ever experienced. Paul Solomon. Wow. Yeah. This congregation personifies and demonstrates these spiritual principles: gratitude, love, friendship. There is a tide of rising fear and paranoia in the world. We don't have to look far to find it. You come together here for fellowship and to recharge your batteries in the spirit of where two or more are gathered. Take that energy into the world and befriend each other. But not only befriend each other, befriend those to whom you draw to yourself, to your experience. Spiritual enlightenment, awakening, implies a responsibility, a duty, to share ourselves with others who are caught up in the troubles and the worries of the world, to offer them an invitation to a higher experience, a higher reality, the divine reality. A spiritual master once described God as a shoreless, bottomless, infinite ocean, and us as bubbles upon the ocean, seemingly separate, bubble here, bubble over there. But in truth, we are not separate from the ocean at all. As I look out over each of you, I see you as individualized expressions. I see you as bubbles on the surface of the ocean. But I also see you as the ocean. I see you as a shoreless, boundless, infinite ocean of pure love. And as we close our eyes now and take a good deep breath or two, universal spirit, the divine reality, is the life force within me. And every cell of my body is filled with the intelligence, love, and radiant energy of spirit, mind, Spirit's will for me is perfect health. And in this space, ideas such as sickness, disease, and old age cannot exist in infinite mind. That mind is my mind. So I now see myself as Spirit sees me, strong, vital, perfect. I am now lifted up in the consciousness of wholeness. I accept my healing. I am healed now. This pure energy is now flooding my consciousness, transmuting the negative frequencies and restoring my consciousness to its spiritual vibration. Let there be peace in my heart as I feel my heart light opening, expanding, the excitement of acceleration in my mind, and joyous words on my lips. I turn within and see and find and know the only presence, the only power, the only cause, and the only activity of eternal life. I am a totally open channel for the glorious expression of this infinite self, knowing that there is but one Spirit in which we all live, move, and have our being. We feel the Spirit not only in our consciousness, but throughout all of our affairs. We are united with the All, one with the eternal light itself. The presence of Spirit within blesses everyone we meet, tends to heal everything we touch, and brings gladness into the life of everyone we contact. Therefore, you are a blessing to yourself, to humankind, and to this day in which you live. I know there is nothing in me that could possibly obstruct or withhold the divine circuit of life and love, which God is. It is so, and so it is. And as Ram Dass so eloquently puts it, we're all just walking each other home. Just imagine if everyone would give themselves to love. Amen. Thank you again for having me. It's been a total delight for me. And I wish you a wonderful Sunday afternoon and a great Thanksgiving with your families. Thank you.